Yo friends, Linnea here from the future. I am sitting here editing this week's video when I had this awkward moment of realizing that this week's video talks about the one thing missing in mindset work. Which, if you watched last week's video, which of course you did, it also talks about the one thing missing in mindset work. Which makes me sound like someone that you really can trust, not. Because if you know any kind of basic maths, 1 + 1 = 2. So there are technically 2 things missing in mindset work. But to my defense, I can say that we are multidimensional beings. So these 2 things may be equally true, but on different levels of our existence. So with that said, let's dive into today's video. Yo friends, so the one thing missing in mindset work. And I feel like this is so important to address. Because the world is in a state where maybe more people than ever are afraid and have anxiety and depression. Mental health problems are up the roof. So I felt like it's so important to address this because I know firsthand how it feels to wake up and feel like there is no meaning with life. Like, why am I even waking up today? I know how it feels to have anxiety attacks so severe that you're going to the ER, because that's what happened to me a couple of years ago. I woke up and I thought, this is it, and my whole body was cramping and I had convulsions, I could barely speak. And I have my parents, because I was at my parents' place at the time, drive me in the middle of the night to the ER, only to see like, everything is good, nothing is wrong with you. And I was like, but something is wrong with me. And the one thing that made a whole difference, because this was not my first anxiety attack. I had panic attacks before, and just constant looming anxiety and the feeling that something was going really wrong, that my whole life was out of control, that I was just literally a human in a giant tumble dryer, and it felt so scary and I felt so vulnerable. But then 5 years ago something happened that shifted everything, and since then I can count on one hand the number of minutes I've had anxiety. And that's true, and that's coming from someone who had so much anxiety. Now, the thing that happened was that I had a spiritual awakening. So yes, the one thing that is missing in mindset work is the soul, the spirit. And I know that this will not resonate with many people, and some people will think that, oh, but there is no such thing and I don't believe in that. And to you, I just want to say that I completely respect that. And you are free to believe whatever you want to believe, whatever makes you happy. Okay, because for 30 years of my life, I had a very scientific worldview. And I just believed in the materialistic world and nothing more. Now, what I have learned since, that may just open your eyes a little, is that the materialistic worldview was imposed as a dominant worldview during the Enlightenment. Not because it was the best description of reality, but because the people in power wanted to disempower the church. They wanted to invalidate the church and remove its dominance. And then of course you needed a worldview that told like all these invisible things, invisible forces, magic, God, it doesn't exist. And that has prevailed, and that worldview has stuck with us. But it's important to remember that it's not the accurate worldview, and they even knew that during the Enlightenment. I'm not gonna elaborate this more, you can look it up, even though I think a lot of it is hidden. Because there are forces that want us to believe that we don't have access to this infinite power that you can access through your soul. But I just think that life also gets a lot more magical when you believe that there is something out there, something more. And isn't it fascinating that only 4% approximately of the mind is conscious, and only 4% of the matter in the universe is visible matter, the rest is dark matter. So we have this very interesting and peculiar synchronicity, symmetry, between the conscious versus unconscious mind and the visible versus dark matter in the universe. And the thing with being on a spiritual journey is that you need to open up to the idea that everything that you knew is wrong. And that requires shit tons of courage. That is not a small thing, but I have my reasons to believe that what we can see with the human eye is just a fraction of reality. And that everything that you perceive as real, as true, is not the objective reality. It's not the ultimate reality. And we are multidimensional beings. We can exist in many dimensions at once. But that's for another video. So this was more of a philosophical video. I just wanted to explain to you, even though the concept of the soul, the concept of spirit is not intellectual, it's not logical. So we can't really explain it, you have to experience it for yourself. Now we talked about the mind, we talked about the body, we talked about the spirit. But there is another aspect of being human, a very, very strong and central aspect, and that is